Howdy mates, good morning, how are we all doing? It is Saturday, July 10th, 2021, and I'm over at one of my favorite preserves in this part of Florida. I'm over by Venice, to be specific, so Sarasota County. So what we're looking at is the famed Myakka River, which essentially starts up in Manatee County, and then this will eventually flow down south, making its way down to the Charlotte Harbor. So you may be wondering, what exactly is causing that dark color that you are seeing in the river? Well, it's not just brown because it chooses to be. It's brown because there's a compound called tannic acid, which essentially is a form of an organic acid which leaches from our surrounding swamps and marshes. Tannic acid is something that is developed when there is also decaying material in the ground. So you could say this also could represent the colors of some of our soil here. But the main idea is we're looking at tannic acid. And actually a similar compound to tannic acid is used with making leather as well. So what's neat about this particular portion of the Myakka River is it remains unbothered. Ah, how you doing, fella? So in other words, this is one of the protected areas. So it's recreational still. You can bring your kayaks or boats out here if you choose, but there isn't any development that's around here whatsoever. But this is like one of the main rivers in this part of the state. And essentially the type of habitat, you might be wondering where we are. This is mostly this is like an oak hammock, essentially. And we're a bit further away from the Gulf, so we are slightly higher in elevation. So you could say that the moisture content in the soil could be sort of mesic. But this is what happens eventually when a dune has enough time to develop on its own. So you figure where I'm standing was once where a beach was. So what I wanted to point out was these guys right up here. I don't know if you guys can see it as clearly as I can. Give me a moment. Yeah, like right up there. You see that? Kind of looks like it's aloe. Well, that's actually called a Cardinal Air Plant, I believe. Simply because they actually produce these flowers that have a bit of a red color associated, hence cardinal part of it. And what's fascinating about air plants in general is they don't necessarily rely on the tree for food. So let's say we had a recent rain period, and any organic material that may have came off the tree or any other leaves, they can feed on it. But they still don't rely on the tree, though. Like, they still have to obtain their own water. They just do it in a different way, as opposed to being just in the soil. Yeah, so I mean, same goes for the Spanish moss here, and even some of our other epiphytes too, such as these. But yeah, they just have a different way of obtaining their nutrients. And actually, if you give me a sec, I want to show you guys a well-known air plant that's actually called a resurrection fern. So just give me a second so that I can have a chance to find some. All right, give me a moment. Alrighty, finally, I had to walk down the trail a little bit to find some. So that whole cluster of ferns up here are the resurrection ferns. Kind of reminds you of looking at, you know, when you're looking at an individual fern, kind of reminds you of looking at a Christmas tree, in a sense. So you may be wondering, like, why do they call them a resurrection fern? Well, this is what they typically do. So, let's say we have a bit of a dry period, right? So they'll try to take in as much water as they can, but then they'll eventually wilt when they lose the water content. So once there is a bit of a rain period, which we actually had not too long ago, the plant essentially comes back to life once it gets the water that it needs, and thus it's able to come back to life and get the sunlight and water that it needs once again to survive. And that is why they call that a resurrection fern. But yeah, you can see a bunch of them right here on this oak before me. But this is another cool thing that I've seen here at Sleeping Turtles, is during particular times of the year, people can climb on this tree and basically jump off of it. It's actually pretty cool. However, with this being this time of the year, you know, where even some alligators are still breeding, I'm not going to take that risk, I'm afraid. But yeah, considering that this part of the Myakka River is protected, you are bound to see American alligators, the kite swallowtail, that's a type of bird. You can even see osprey out here too. And actually, not even that long ago, when I first got here, I even saw a couple of pileated woodpeckers. Yes, and they do migrate this far south. But yeah, so it's a good spot. Yeah, this just also demonstrates what it's like to really be in sort of a coastal hammock composed of oaks. So, alrighty. Thought I would share that with you guys. Hope you got something out of the video, you know, learning about air plants and what the Myakka River really has to offer. This is definitely one of the most impressive rivers found here in the state of Florida. So alright, you guys, hope you all enjoy your Saturday and the rest of your weekend. And journey on a journey is outwards. Take care, folks.